This is the iPhone 15 Pro in 2024. So it's been almost a year since the release of the iPhone 15 Pro. And we're getting close to the release of the iPhone 16 Pro. So today, let's go over how good this phone actually is, and in the long term, was it really an upgrade to the iPhone 14 Pro? Today's video is possible thanks to Lantre. They actually lent out this phone and the accessories for it, like the case and the charger, for me to use, test out, see how I like the iPhone 15 Pro, and just overall made this video possible so that I can make this video for you. If you want to know more about this phone or any other products from Apple, check out the link down below for their website. First things first, the iPhone 15 Pro works on the A17 chip. It is an incredibly powerful chip that you'll find on the smartphone, and because of that you can play games on really high settings, as well as even play games like Assassin's Creed Mirage. So in a sense, it's a very powerful smartphone. But to be honest, playing those high-end games on a smartphone, I would rather actually play on something like a handheld PC, and overall I wouldn't use it for that. It is capable to play some of those games, but if I really wanted to push the boundaries of handheld gaming, I would go for something a little bit more powerful and made for gaming, like the Asus ROG Ally. Thanks to this chip, this iPhone really is super smooth, super silky, everything just works so amazingly fast and is really smooth to use. On daily tasks like scrolling websites, social media, taking photos and videos, and just doing anything you might do with a smartphone, this is literally a really amazing chip that can handle anything you throw at it. It is incredible how good the chips on the iPhones are. In terms of RAM, it still has 8GB of RAM, so there was no real upgrade to the iPhone 15 Pro. On the Android side, you'll find phones with 16 and even more gigabytes of RAM right now. So they are a little bit behind, but I would say that because of the software and the optimization of the software with the chip, which is the A17, it just means that everything just works so amazingly good. So I would say it's more about the optimization rather than the sheer strength in terms of numbers. So 8GB of RAM are still enough on this device, but on paper it's not something way out there. In terms of the screen, we have the XDR Retina display, which is a 6.1-inch OLED display. It is beautiful in terms of colors and contrast. Because it's an XDR display, it's just a perfect screen for everything that you watch on it. Whatever you do, it's gonna look fantastic. Even on camera, I'm sure you can see how beautiful the colors are and the contrast. Everything looks amazing on this screen. Apple really is great with their screens. And in terms of brightness, its max brightness is 1600 nits, but you can get up to 2000 in the auto settings. But I noticed that Apple tends to actually dim down in really harsh sunlight, not to overheat the unit, but because of that, you can't see as good as on the Android side. For example, on the Xiaomi phones that I've been using, they literally can't push so far that even in the harshest sunlight, I was able to use it, where the iPhone tends to do a little bit more like dimming, but it's still a beautiful display. So it's really dependent on how you're gonna use it and where you're gonna use it. But I've noticed that in harsh sunlight, it tends to actually dim instead of using full power, but still, the max peak brightness is 2000 nits. The screen has dynamic island. It can be used for different things. There's where the camera is, that's where the notifications live, and all those different features. I feel like even though smartphones now don't really have any kind of notches, I feel like because Apple wants to use the LiDAR scanner and all those different things, I think that it is the best solution they did. They found a way to hide that high-tech features on it, but still make it look like it's intentional and make it look like there's actually features to that, not only just a notch. Another thing under the hood is the battery in it. It is a 3650 milliamp battery, and while it's not huge by modern day standards for smartphones, but I feel like it's more than enough for the Apple 15 Pro. I guess it's all up to the optimization of the software that they have done, and even though it's a smaller battery, it still holds up so nicely because of the optimization. I feel like what they're doing with the iPhone is literally having everything optimized as good as possible, so they don't have to put the biggest battery or more RAM, because everything is optimized to what it has inside. So even though it might be on paper a little bit smaller, I still feel like it's holding up really nicely throughout the day. In terms of charging the battery, we have 27 watt charging. And you can also wirelessly charge the iPhone 15 Pro. But in the box, you don't get the charger, you only get the USB-C cable. And if you want to get the charger, you have to buy it separately. And talking about the software, it works on the iOS 17 and is really silky smooth. Everything works perfectly fine, silky smooth in operation, and just overall usability. Everything is how you would expect from Apple, top notch. Really like it. Maybe compared to other phones, it isn't as customizable as other phones. I feel like for every consumer, this is gonna be more than enough. And I feel like everything is just making sense. Everything is very organized. Everything just is easy to use, set up the way it is. You don't really have to play around with anything. You just open it up, turn it on, and the iOS 17 is great to go. And like I said, it's optimized so nicely that everything can be just used as it is without any problems. And now let's go over one of the most fun part about the phone, which is the cameras on the back. We have a triple setup on the back. We have a main camera sensor, which is 48 megapixel. Also, we have two additional sensors. One is for the wide angle and one is for the telephoto. Both of these are 12 megapixels, so they aren't as high resolution as the main one, but from my testing, even though they are 12 megapixel, they're really nice. And also, you can record up to 4K 60 frames per second on this phone. You can also record in Apple ProRes, but if you want to record in, for example, 4K 60 frames per second, you would have to attach an SSD to the phone. In terms of the selfie camera, is a 12 megapixel sensor on the front. In terms of photos and videos, while I think that photos and videos are really good on the iPhone, you know how it is, a lot of people are actually preferring the way the iPhones make photos. It's like the go-to standard. But I feel like compared to competition, when I was testing out different phones, I feel like iPhone has just this kind of a feel that everything is a little bit more processed, which might be a good thing, might be a bad thing depending on what you're shooting, how you're shooting, and what your preferences are. Because I felt like sometimes colors are a little bit off, the color science isn't the perfect way. Photos tend to go into the greenish and orangish tint, but also there seems to be a lot of contrast, sharpening, and all those different processes going into the photo. So overall, usually the photos look amazing straight out of the phone. They really are good. And in most cases, you're gonna find yourself really liking the photos from the iPhone. I would say the biggest thing is because of the post-processing of the phone in software side, I found myself sometimes finding places or things that just didn't look right on the photo. Sometimes, like, for example, a building would be completely white, but on the photo it looked like it had smudges. So it's really depending on the situation. I would say for 99% of the time, you're gonna like the photos from the iPhone, and then there's gonna be some times where it's just gonna look a little bit over-processed. But overall, for general consuming, I would say it's an amazing camera phone. And I think it's amazing for photos and videos alike. If you're enjoying the music in this video, check out the link down below for Epidemic Sound. It has been the go-to music I have been using since the start of this channel, and thanks to their copyright-free music, you can actually monetize your channel and your videos on YouTube. And with the link down below, you'll get a 7-day free trial. There's actually one more sensor on the back and the front, which is a LiDAR sensor. Essentially, it's more for the 3D effect, which is really nice for a couple of different reasons. One thing you can do with this phone is actually through the phone measure your room, for example, or maybe a picture or something you want to do. Through the camera you're gonna see the room, but you can actually measure different things because of the LiDAR sensor. But also in the video department, when you want to have background blur that normally with a smartphone you might not get because of the smaller sensors, you can actually turn on this cinematic mode. And because of that, the background looks like it has a blur. This is the cinematic mode on the video mode test on the iPhone 15 Pro. And this is the cinematic mode, but on zoom ×2. And it looks really natural and really good because it's not only because of the software trying to guess where you are. LiDAR sensor can actually detect the depth. So it can actually tell the phone where you are, what is behind you, what to blur and what to not to blur. So essentially, it is really good for that kind of stuff, and it produces a really nice picture in the cinematic mode, and it looks really good without having that artificial look in it. While it's not the same thing as having a full frame camera, it's still a really cool thing if you wanted to use that. On the iPhone 15 Pro, this actually works as the Face ID, which is a face unlock. So in here, you don't have any fingerprint scanners. Rather, you are using your face as the ID, your security. Essentially, when you open up the screen and you look at the screen, that LiDAR sensor as well as the selfie camera are gonna scan your face, scan your features. So even if you had like a picture of you, it would not work because actually it scans the depth of your face and your facial features. Thanks to this, it's really safe. Overall, I feel like the iPhone 15 Pro is a really good phone in 2024. Definitely a really high standard phone for mid 2024. But compared to the iPhone 14 Pro, I feel like it wasn't that big of a jump compared to how it was last year. I feel like most of the differences was the titanium body, which in my opinion, while it looks nice, it really feels like you can see the wear of it after some time. You can literally see where you touch it the most. You kind of see how it's a little bit getting more used up in that titanium, the coloring of it. And overall, while it's a nice addition, it feels really nice in hand. I don't feel like it's something that just revolutionized the iPhone. It's more like an evolution rather than a revolution. So I would say for someone that already had 14 Pro, this wasn't that big of an upgrade. Well, for someone coming to the iPhone or from older generation, this is definitely a great phone. And in 2024, before the iPhone 16 Pro, I feel like it's still an amazing phone if you're interested in an iPhone. With that being said, that's gonna be the end of today's video. I hope you guys learned something new today. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed this video once again, and I'll see you next time.